How many people think this is extremely high? Yeah. And if you look at the average, the church that God created, okay, and the things that were evident in God's church, we just here in this room look at it and say, we're probably about 60% effective in being that church. That has got to change. Because if we here are saying we're probably about 60% effective in being that church, what are the people who are not in this room and may never set foot in this room? What's their perception of the God who created the universe and those of us who are supposed to be His spiritual manifestation? We are God's presence on the earth. And we can't get this right. That we're not going to get reaching them right. This is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to rate yourself in these areas. You could write it down or just keep it in your head. You don't have to share it with anyone. It's just between you and God and your spouse on the way home. But where would you say that you rate in the teaching? Now, granted, you may not be teaching, but in you desiring to dig in and know God's Word. Are you on the spectrum of all I try to get is whatever's given on Sunday morning? Or are you a person who says, I want to be committed to creating a culture to where in this thing we call the church, not this building, but this group of people called the church, where we are desperately seeking to know and experience more of God. You rate yourself between you and God. And this thing we call fellowship. Because if you look around the room, I mean, some of us know each other, but if the only time we actually see each other, and I know we're busy, we got work and we got family, the only time we actually see each other is on Sunday morning, that's not really fellowship. If the only time we hang out and get to know each other's stories and know what's going on in each other's life and try to support one another is in a 3-minute countdown while we're getting coffee, that's not fellowship. And I know some of you guys, you get together now and then and you have coffee together and meals together and go to concerts together and hang out and stuff together. That's the culture that the church created. To where people see us doing life together, they look and say, I want to do life with you. Not because of who we are, but because of who God is. And rate yourself on where you think you stand on the breaking of bread. If the only time you've shared a meal with any other person in this room is at one of the events we created, that's not really breaking bread. And one of our core values is extreme generosity. So if you are financially able, invite someone out for coffee. Invite them out to dinner. Invite them to your home to, maybe sit and watch the basketball game with you over chips and a Coke. That's the church. That's what the church does. And rate yourself from where you are in prayer. If the only time that you seek to talk to God is when, me or Darren or whoever's up here says, bow your heads and pray. I don't want to offend anyone, but that's not prayer. If the only time that you seek to talk to God is when someone else says, let me talk to God for you, that's not prayer. If the only time you seek to hear what God may be speaking to you about your life, the situations you're going through, is when you pick up the phone and say, hey, can you add this to the prayer chain? That's not prayer. Can you imagine? I mean, think about this. The same God that created the universe, that kind of set the world in motion, is saying, I want to hear from you. I want you to talk to me and tell me what's going on in your life, so I can share with you the wonderful things I have in store for your life, and I can be with you as you go through this thing called life. There's not a single person outside of these four walls that will ever change their perception of the church until we do a better job at being the church.